Buenos dias. Not enough coffee, clearly. Buenos dias. Good morning. My name is Maria Elena Hincapié. I'm the Executive Director of the National Immigration Law Center, and I'm so excited to be here to reconnect with old friends, to meet new friends who are doing really incredible work on the ground for all of our immigrant worker families. Those of you who I've worked with for many years know that although these days I'm not as involved in the workers' rights field because of litigation that we are co-leading down in Arizona, Alabama, Georgia, Utah, South Carolina, Indiana, as well as working on the incredible victory that our community has gotten with Dreamers at the leadership through the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals that the Obama administration announced a couple of months ago. At the end of the day, workers' rights is in my DNA. So it's really wonderful to be here with all of you, to see old friends. And you know, just when Gigi asked me to facilitate this meeting some months ago, I don't even remember when that was, Gigi, it feels like a year ago, little did I know how crazy things were going to be in the country and how busy, you know, we were all so busy 3 months ago, it just feels like we're much, much even busier. But it really, just reflecting on the need for this meeting, which I think came out of many of the conversations that Gigi Barsoum was having with many of you over the last year, year and a half, I was realizing that we actually have not had a meeting like this in many, many years, and I honestly couldn't even think of one that was statewide, exclusively focused on immigrant workers' rights, and that brought together the legal strategies, the organizing, the policy, and the communications. I mean, CIPC convenes these wonderful statewide meetings which are broader on immigrant rights. We at the National Immigration Law Center have partnered with many of you to hold regional meetings in Northern California and the Central Valley, in San Diego, here in the Inland Empire, but not, again, really bringing all of us together with all of the different strategies which are all equally important. And so I do think that that's one of the benefits of the day today, bringing the brain power, the strategies that you all have and that you work on every single day, and to be open to new strategies, to new relationships, new alliances, because that is what is needed. We all know, every single person, and in fact, we have some of the workers from the warehouse workers, which I'm going to ask you to stand up for a second. Silvia and Ruben are just two of the many immigrant workers in this state that are struggling every single day and that are also taking courageous actions to challenge employer retaliation, to challenge unsafe working conditions, to challenge wage theft. During this time in this country when our economy has forced so many people, especially immigrant workers, especially undocumented workers, to accept, not out of choice, but to basically being forced to accept horrible working conditions, unpaid oftentimes, harassment, retaliation, all of that. And when, again, the Obama administration, unfortunately, has I-9 audits as one of its big strategies, important strategies, mandatory E-Verify as well, we in California have a responsibility, not just to our community members, but to the country, to be at the vanguard and to take our collective power and really lead the direction for this country, for immigrant workers and working families as a whole. And so today, I thank you all for coming. Many of you have traveled. You've left behind a lot of work for the day, as well as your families, and so we thank you for taking out the entire day. But let's remember, and fortunately we do have Silvia and Ruben here, but let's all remember our clients, our members, immigrant workers who we fight for every single day. And although many of them are not in the room today, that is why we're here. And remember that we, at the end of the day, hopefully will come out with strategies, with new directions that will help us be more strategic. We have to be at the best of our game for our immigrant family members and working families in California and across the country. So the diversity of folks in the room today, again, is not just on strategies, but really from across the state. I think the Planning Committee did an excellent job in trying to ensure that this was really truly reflective of advocates throughout the state, and we actually also have some national friends. As we all know, many of us are siloed in our work, right? If you're doing organizing, you tend to be in organizing. If you're a lawyer, you tend to associate with, your legal advocacy friends, or you're doing work in Sacramento, it's mostly legislative. And again, one of the goals for today is to break some of those silos down and really think about how to move forward strategically. We know that there are a lot of challenges, but also really incredible opportunities, and we'll hear about those today. I think one of the biggest challenges the Planning Committee had was how to select which committees, which campaigns to highlight. We have a wealth of, I think one of the benefits we have in California is we have a wealth of organizing and legal strategies and advocacy that we could have highlighted. So the ones that are being highlighted today are really more about showing which ones we thought were the most challenging, or showed either, again, creative alliances or opportunities that we have today. And with the Brown administration, we are hoping, and Isabel from CIPC and I were just talking about this, that we'll have some really great news on October 1st, and that maybe Governor Brown will sign both the California Bill of Rights for domestic workers as well as the Trust Act. But that is part of what, in choosing the different campaigns that we are highlighting today, it really is about what are some of the most challenging issues that immigrant workers are facing today. So before I continue with just some thank yous and laying out what the day will look like, we're going to take a few minutes, since it is such a large group and we can't do intros for everybody. We will take a few minutes and just have you introduce yourself at the table, name and organization, and then we'll kind of circle back to starting the day. So just take a few minutes now. You guys may know each other. Okay, if people can start wrapping up. Great. Okay, so thank you. We're really hoping that you'll take the opportunity during breaks and at lunchtime as well to get to know each other, especially people at other tables, people you don't work regularly with. I know it's hard because many of us are reconnecting and haven't seen each other in a while, but we do really want to make sure that part of this is relationship building. Again, as we talked about earlier, many of us come from different parts of different movements. Maybe it's the labor movement, maybe it's the immigrant rights movement, maybe it's domestic worker movement, maybe it's the DREAM movement. And again, the relationships is really what makes a difference, as we all know. It's all about relationships, and also that as we build stronger movements, it's in the work that we're going to be doing together and that we have been doing together. So again, that is one of the goals for today. We want to make sure that we talk about, thank the planning committee that helped put today together. So I'm going to briefly ask, as I mention your name, to please stand up if you're in the room. So Chloe Osmer from the AFL-CIO, Victor Narro. You can hold your applause so I can go through really quickly. Victor Narro from UCLA Labor Center, my colleague Josh Stellick from NILC, Pablo Alvarado from Endelon, who I don't see, Gabriela Villarreal from CIPC, Roxana Tinen from Lane, Julie Gutman from Program for Torture Victims, Yana Sharak Hernandez from the Labor Center, Eric Cohen from ILRC, Cynthia Rice from CRLA, Eunice Cho from NELP, Katie Kwan from the UC Berkeley Labor Center, Tim Szilard, who's not with us but will join us a little bit later, from Rosenberg, Maria Blanco, and Stephanie Ramirez from CCF, the California Community Foundation. If all of you can just stand up briefly so we can give you a big round of applause. Thank you, gracias. We also, of course, want to thank our incredible policymakers who are joining us today, Julie Su and Ellen Wydess, who really are part of the family. So it's really wonderful to have them today. And I don't see either one at the moment, but they will be joining us a little bit later. And last but not least, to Gigi Barsom. Gigi, if you can please stand up. Who really has made today possible. So Gigi, thank you for bringing us all together. And to the Rosenberg Foundation, who folks may or may not know really has been one of the few foundations in the country that has supported immigrant workers' rights for over a decade. I would say probably over 2 decades. And so I think, not surprising, they are the ones who are bringing us together today. So it's really important to recognize that. A couple of other things for the day. On the whiteboard on the far left corner, or my far left corner, there are 2 questions that we're asking that throughout the day you go up there. There's some Post-its. Write down your notes under each one. The 2 questions are, what is your first priority in terms of a next step that we can take together? And based on today's conversation, what do you need to strengthen your ability to work collectively? So I do want to make sure that, again, this is more probably later towards the day, but Gigi and I will be compiling those notes and using that to inform the last session throughout the day today. So one of my main roles and responsibilities today is to keep us on track timing-wise. So I will ask our first panel, Angelica Salas, who will be moderating the state legislation panel, and then the 3 panelists, Reshma Samasander, Giv Kashkuli, and Andrea Cristina Mercado, to come up to the table so we can get started. And before I go any further, I just noticed that one of our role models in the movement has just joined us. So I do want to recognize Dolores Huerta. Please stand up. And thank you, Dolores, for being such an inspiration to so many of us, especially us women, immigrant women and women of color, and everybody who fights for workers' rights in this country. Gracias. Thank you for joining us. So, panelists.